Sure, here's a story based on the title, Best HFY Stories, a Galactic Insult. ####Best HFY Stories, a Galactic Insult. In the grand halls of the intergalactic Concordium, where species from 1,000 worlds gathered to debate, negotiate, and flaunt their technological prowess, a single human stood at the center of the chamber. Captain Elena Ward was her name, and she was there to represent Earth, a planet dismissed by the galactic community as little more than a cosmic backwater. The room hummed with murmurs of disdain and laughter. The Kthara delegate, a towering creature with bioluminescent tendrils, leaned into its microphone, its voice translated into a mechanical monotone. Humans, it began, are a species so primitive that their interstellar propulsion relies on combustion. Combustion, they are a blight upon the stars, known for arrogance and reckless disregard for their own ecosystem. And now, they stand here to plead their case for galactic inclusion? This must be a joke. The chamber erupted in laughter. Elena clenched her fists but kept her expression neutral. She had expected this. Humanity's reputation was as much a liability as it was a rallying cry back home. When the noise subsided, Elena stepped forward. Her voice was steady, amplified by the room's acoustics. "You're right," she began, drawing surprised glances from some delegates. "Humanity is reckless. We've made mistakes, plenty of them. We've scarred our planet, fought among ourselves, and pushed boundaries we didn't fully understand. But isn't that the essence of progress?" She gestured to the assembly, her tone sharpening. "Every species here has faced extinction at some point. Every one of you has adapted, struggled, and survived. Humanity is no different. Yes, we rely on combustion engines, but we also launched probes into deep space when others said it couldn't be done. We've mapped our galaxy with machines built by hand, and we've thrived on a planet that should have destroyed us countless times over." The murmurs shifted, now tinged with curiosity. "But what truly sets us apart," Elena continued, "is our defiance. When we were told we couldn't fly, we built planes. When we were told the moon was unreachable, we walked on its surface, and when the galaxy laughed at us, we came here anyway." The Kthara delegate's tendrils twitched in irritation. "Defiance without caution is folly. Your species is an insult to the principles of harmony and wisdom." Elena smiled, a glint of steel in her eyes. "An insult?" she echoed. "Perhaps, but every great achievement in history began as an insult to the status quo, to those who thought it couldn't be done, to those who feared change. If being an insult means daring to push forward, to challenge limits, then humanity will gladly own that title." The chamber fell silent. Slowly, one by one, delegates began tapping their approval, a universal gesture of respect. Even the Kthara delegate remained still, its tendrils dimmed. Humanity had yet to prove its worth in the stars, but in that moment, Elena knew they had taken the first step. "Would you like to expand or modify any part of the story?" "Sure, here's the continuation of the story." The silence in the chamber was interrupted by a booming laugh. It came from the representative of the Garath Dominion, a hulking, reptilian species known for their brutal efficiency in warfare. Ambassador Krollner rose from his seat, his scales shimmering under the chamber lights. "I like her," he declared, his voice reverberating. "Humans remind me of the Garath in our early days, foolhardy, stubborn, and maddeningly resourceful. We were underestimated, too. Perhaps this galactic insult deserves a closer look." The Kthara delegate hissed in disapproval. "This is not a council for theatrics, Garath. Your amusement is misplaced." Krollner bared his fangs in a grin. "Oh, but it's not just amusement. Humanity's defiance may be reckless, but it carries potential. Potential that could shake the complacency of this council." Elena seized the moment. Ambassador Krollner is right. Complacency is dangerous. Empires crumble not because of external threats but because they grow too comfortable, too unwilling to adapt. Humanity has its flaws, but we are a species that thrives on change. A smaller voice chimed in, surprising everyone. It belonged to the Aelori envoy, a species known for their advanced intellect and measured diplomacy. Envoy Listen floated forward on a gravity cushion, her crystalline form refracting light into rainbows. "Captain Ward, your words resonate," Listen said, her tone soft but firm. "Perhaps it is precisely this disruptive spirit that the Concordium needs. Too long have we rested on tradition, dismissing younger races as irrelevant. I propose we grant Earth provisional membership, under close observation, to see if this insult can become an inspiration." The chamber erupted again, this time with debate. Supporters and detractors argued back and forth, their voices blending into a cacophony. Elena stood silently, her heart pounding but her face calm. She had said her piece, now it was up to the council. Hours passed as the delegates debated. Some praised humanity's resilience, others condemned its audacity. Finally, the presiding arbiter, a serene figure from the ancient Elantri species, raised a hand for silence. "Enough," the arbiter said, their voice echoing like a chime in the wind. Humanity has stirred this council, for better or worse, a vote shall decide their fate. The voting began. One by one, species cast their decision. The tension was palpable as the tally was displayed on the massive holoscreen. Provisional membership, 512. Rejection, 498. The decision was made. The arbiter turned to Elena. Earth shall be granted provisional membership in the Intergalactic Concordium. You will be observed closely, Captain Ward. Humanity must prove it can be more than an insult to the galaxy. Do not squander this opportunity. Elena bowed, her heart soaring. Thank you, we won't let you down. As she exited the chamber, she could feel the weight of the galaxy's eyes on her. Humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun. They had much to prove and countless challenges ahead. But one thing was clear, Earth was no longer a forgotten backwater. It was a force to be reckoned with. Would you like to explore the challenges humanity faces next or develop a subplot? #### Humanity's first test. The moment Captain Elena Ward stepped out of the Concordium chambers, a swarm of holographic reporters descended upon her. Their projection drones buzzed with questions in dozens of languages, their glowing lenses capturing her every move. Captain Ward, what do you say to those who call humanity's membership a mistake? How will Earth prove its worth in the galactic arena? Do you believe humanity has what it takes to coexist with advanced civilizations? Elena raised a hand, silencing the chaos. Humanity isn't here to talk, we're here to act. Judge us by what we do next. With that, she strode away, leaving the reporters buzzing. Back on the ISS Pathfinder, the flagship of Earth's fledgling interstellar fleet, Elena addressed her crew. The ship was humanity's pride, a marvel of ingenuity cobbled together from Earth's best technologies, supplemented with a few scraps of alien tech acquired through trade and goodwill. We did it, Elena began, her voice steady but firm. We're in, but this is just the beginning. The Concordium will be watching our every move, waiting for us to fail. We can't afford mistakes. Lieutenant Malik, the ship's chief engineer, leaned against a console. Any word on our first assignment, Captain? Elena nodded, her expression grim. We've been given a provisional mission, one the Concordium clearly expects us to botch. A distress signal from the Zarnix Nebula. A Concordium science vessel has gone dark near an unstable star cluster. No other ships are available or willing to take the risk. It's up to us. The room fell silent. The Zarnix Nebula was notorious, a graveyard of failed missions and lost crews. The Concordium had essentially handed them a death sentence under the guise of a challenge. Ensign Rao, the ship's youngest crew member, broke the silence. Do they really expect us to die out there? Probably, Elena replied, but they've underestimated us before, and they'll do it again. We're not just representing Earth out there, we're proving what humanity can bring to the galaxy. The crew sprang into action. Engineers prepped the ship's experimental shielding, scientists calibrated the sensors, and pilots studied the treacherous star charts of the nebula. Hours later, the ISS Pathfinder jumped into warp, heading straight into the unknown. #### Into the Zarnix Nebula. The nebula was a kaleidoscope of swirling colors, its beauty masking deadly dangers. Ion storms crackled in the distance, and gravitational anomalies tugged at the Pathfinder as it maneuvered deeper into the region. Signal detected, called Lieutenant Juno, the ship's communication officer. It's faint, but it's coming from a derelict vessel. Identifying now? It's the Cyronox, a Concordium research ship. Elena leaned forward. Status of the vessel? Minimal power, life signs, faint but present, Juno replied. Bring us in close, Elena ordered. As the Pathfinder approached, the crew realized the Cyronox was in worse shape than expected. Its hull was riddled with damage, and its power core emitted erratic energy spikes. Docking would be a risk, but leaving survivors behind wasn't an option. Captain, Lieutenant Malik said, their core is unstable. If it goes critical, the blast could take out the entire nebula. Suggestions? Elena asked. We need to stabilize their core remotely, but the interference in the nebula makes it nearly impossible. We'll have to board the ship, Malik said grimly. Then we board, Elena decided. #### Boarding the Cyronox. Elena led the boarding team herself, suited in advanced EVA gear. As they entered the Cyronox, the air was thick with smoke and the flickering emergency lights cast eerie shadows. The crew found survivors, mostly unconscious, some barely clinging to life. Among them was Dr. Varlon, a renowned biologist from the Aelori species. Dr. Varlon weakly gestured to a terminal. The core must be stabilized, if not, everything lost. Elena nodded to Malik, who began working on the terminal. Captain, this system is fried. I can stabilize the core manually, but I'll need time. Time is the one thing we don't have, Elena muttered, glancing at her crew. Rao, Juno, get the survivors back to the Pathfinder. Malik and I will handle the core. the ship groaned, and a warning klaxon blared. Malik cursed under his breath. "Captain, this thing is minutes away from blowing." "Then let's not waste them," Elena said, moving to assist. #### Humanity's defiance. Back on the Pathfinder, the crew anxiously watched the Cyronox. The unstable energy from the core caused violent ripples in the nebula, and the clock was ticking. "Come on, Captain," Rao whispered, gripping the edge of her console. Inside the Cyronox, Elena and Malik worked frantically. Sparks flew as they rewired damaged systems, their suits' shields barely holding against the radiation. "Got it," Malik shouted, "core stabilized, but we need to move, now." As they sprinted back to their shuttle, the Cyronox groaned again, this time with the unmistakable sound of structural collapse. They barely made it out as the ship's outer hull began to implode. Seconds later, the Pathfinder jumped to a safe distance, the boarding shuttle docking just in time. Cheers erupted on the bridge as Elena and Malik stepped out of the shuttle, exhausted but alive. They had done it. #### A galactic statement. The rescue of the Cyronox was broadcast across the Concordium. Delegates who had mocked humanity were now forced to acknowledge their bravery and ingenuity. Even the Kthara delegate offered a grudging nod of approval. Elena addressed the Concordium once more, standing tall despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "Humanity is far from perfect, but we don't give up. We adapt, we persevere, and when faced with impossible odds, we rise." The chamber remained silent for a moment before a slow wave of approval spread through the delegates. Humanity had passed its first test. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would offer countless challenges, and humanity would face them all, not as a galactic insult, but as a force of defiance and hope. Would you like the story to continue, perhaps exploring humanity's integration into galactic politics or future missions?